This business is like the Wild West. Gold, silver, rare coins, lost treasures of history. You never know what's gonna walk through that door.
These are coins from North Korea.
I'll probably double my money. Watch this. I'm Evan Kale, and this is Pawn Man. Guys, we have a great episode of Pawn Man in store, but before we get into it, I sincerely want to thank the episode sponsor once again for the month, Local Coin Company. Be sure you follow Local Coin Company on social media. Check out their Whatnot auctions. There's a link in the video description. Local Coin Company this past week just gave out $4,000 in cash as a giveaway. 1,000 people were watching the auction. You get a 1 in 1,000 chance of winning $4,000, and they do this stuff a lot. So check out their auctions, visit them online. I'm actually gonna be launching a podcast with Local Coin Company pretty soon. I don't know, it's on the docket. So follow Local Coin Company, do business with them. They're great people, and they have some great products at an excellent price. They get some really high-end coins in too. So check them out. And with that, you guys, let's get into the episode. So I got an alert this morning from several different dealers in the span of an hour. Hey, watch out, there's a bait and switch going on. I got a phone call, 2 text messages. One of the people sent me an ID, so I printed off the ID. And I go to tell my employee, the bait and switch, we've talked about this before, where somebody comes in with a gold chain, and the chain's real. Tested everything, it's all good, you agree on a price. The second you turn your back, either to get money or whatever, the second you turn your back, they flip it out with a fake. Looks the same, feels the same carat, same weight, same everything, but this one's fake. And you don't find out until down the road that you got burned. So I get this alert and I tell my employee, and I'm like kind of excited because, you know, I like it when happens in here. Like this, of all the shops, it's so stupid to try and come in here, even if you get away with it. So I printed out his driver's license because somebody took a photo of it. Victor Vasquez from Texas. And so I printed this off, I showed this to my employee, and he said, dude, he was in here while you were running errands yesterday. I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, dude, that was the big chain that I was telling you about, that big chain that I didn't buy. So check this out. And if you're like, well, Pawn Man, how do you know it's him? I mean, come on. So my employee didn't buy it. Well, he thought something suspicious was up, but it was nothing overt. He was kind of checking the boxes of that I look for, and, you know, I've taught him well, I guess. So he's a little sketched out by but then when they went to do the deal, my employee looked at his ID and it was expired. This is a heavily regulated business. You have to have ID if you are selling jewelry to me. And if there's anything off, like I said, I can't do it. Yeah, because it was expired, my employee did not do the deal. But you'll notice he keeps trying to push it on my employee. My employee was like, no. And so the guy left empty-handed. Now, the guy took the old man apparently for $1,200 yesterday. So my thought is he went straight from there over here and, So, this guy is running around Minnesota. I don't know if he's trying to hit anyone else today, but I just put the alert out about him, and, don't do that. Bad idea. Muhammad Ali, Sports Illustrated, but we don't know if it's real.
This is the signature in question. Well, I can tell by the pressure, it's not an auto pen.
I've got a story with that, not a COA. I know stories don't sell at big money.
Let me hear the story.
The guy who bought it knew Ali's assistant trainer, I forget his name, Bambino, not Angelo Dundee, and arranged to get this on these 2 signatures on this magazine. Now again, that's a story.
I've had a Muhammad Ali autograph. I want to say I got $600 for it. I'm going to compare it with other signatures I can find on the internet. Like I said, I have had the signature before, and it does look legit. Okay, so there's some stuff I don't like. This, the way the swoosh comes up on the M here, I'm not seeing the way the swoosh aggressively comes up and goes straight down. I'm not seeing him doing that really to this extent. Now that's not to say anything.
Right.
On anything else I'm seeing here, it bubbles more, it starts higher. I see it with a little curve down, but I mean, this is a guy who got punched in the face a lot, so probably couldn't even walk in a straight line, let alone draw one.
But if he signed it around this magazine 71, I think he still had his faculties. That's not helping my cause, but...
Okay, this one looks better.
Honestly, you'd have to get this authenticated for me to buy it.
And I get that.
Because this could be a really good forger. I couldn't tell you.
Let's assume it's real, and, you know, here's my problem. I can put it in my shop and sell it, I'm sure, within a month to 2 years.
That he signed it twice makes it interesting.
It makes it interesting, but they are 2 different looking signatures.
That's curious. It's not an auto pen. I know enough to tell you that. It's a real person signed it. I just don't know if that real person was Muhammad Ali or not. You can see if there's anyone local who can do autographs. I don't know anyone who can.
Let's say...
And if you find someone, actually let me know.
Legit, what do you think it's worth?
$1,000 tops. Yeah,
really?
tops. He signed a lot of stuff. I got $600 or $700 on the one that I had. I paid like $400 for it. Was a letter.
That's what I want out of this for, you know.
I would do, you know, if that's real, I would do $400. You gotta prove it's real, and I don't know how to do that.
That's the problem. Good to see you. Have a good day.
You too.
So he's precisely what I want to nip. I like the guy. He's another dealer, and I paid him, first deal I did with him, he was so excited. I think I even did it for YouTube. He was so excited that he came back that same day with more stuff, and I have purchased a few fake items from him. He had a trade dollar that was fake. Now, he did come back, give me my money back. It was a $900 mistake, and that we definitely filmed. He's a legit person. He just is like wheeling and dealing and wanting top dollar, and he's gonna have a lot of really high-end stuff that I don't want to buy. And I bought, like I said, a few fake items from him, so I'm not gonna buy anything else that's high-end from him where I'm taking a gamble. I don't know if that was real. I don't think it was. Didn't want to tell him that. I don't think it was real because I've not seen Muhammad Ali do that with the swoosh, but hey, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd give him $400 if it's real. Here's why I give him $400. If you have Muhammad Ali's signature, I don't want to give you $400. I will give him $400 because Muhammad Ali, if that's real, signed it twice. That makes something rare. I don't know if we talked about that in autographs, but when somebody signs something and then signs it again, that actually makes it way more rare because how often are they gonna do that? You gotta be such a narcissist to do that. If you ever see that and it's real, it automatically makes it more rare, or if they do like a little doodle or something unique. So yeah, $400, I bet I get at least double out if that's real. And he has two first names, which is also his first name and his last name are both first names, and that to me is just a red flag. That's neither here nor there, and I'm sorry if you're somebody that is like that, but it's a warning flag somehow to me. I'm so excited. Cars are one of my great passions. I've been wanting to get into cars for a long time, obviously just with how I operate, my limited operating capital, buying cars expensive, like there's millions of dollars in the showroom. So for me to go and purchase cars on my own, I'm not quite there yet, but luckily I am here at UCAR Connect in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. This is a German high-end import car dealership, and I purchased a car through them a few weeks ago. I bought an Audi S5. Love it, it's great. Well, I was here looking at the car after talking with Eric, one of the owners here, and we talked about social media, and he said, you wanna help us sell some cars? And I was like, oh, so I am here today. We're gonna showcase the very first car from UCAR Connect. Now, I'm not gonna be showing too many of these cars. It'll be just kind of whatever catches my eye, what I think is a really good collector car, something I wanna talk about and test drive. Now, with collector cars, as we will talk about shortly in the monologue, what are you looking for? Well, a really basic thing is, how many were made? How rare is it? That's really where you should start. And the car that I have here today is a BMW Z4 M Roadster. We'll take a look at it in a moment. Now, this car catches my eye, not only because I've driven one before, I had a Z3. It was my first car. My parents spoiled out of me. Excellent car. Absolutely loved it. I had a 3.0 engine. The Z4 replaced the Z3. Again, excellent style. Now, the Z4 has been around for a while. I honestly don't like the new style. I haven't liked the style since they phased out of what we're gonna be looking at in 2008. The one that we're looking at is a 2006. Now, we're showcasing this car, not just because it's a great car with great performance, but because it is very rare. They made very, very, very few of these M badge Z4s. From what I found on Beamer forums, and it is kind of hard to get information about just exactly how many were produced, they built 5,070 Roadsters, and they built 4,275 coupes. Now, this is a Roadster, like I said. There's an old adage that my dad taught me, and it's definitely right. Top goes down, price goes up. If you're buying a collector car, you're probably gonna wanna buy a convertible. Odds are it'll go up way more than a hardtop will. They just kind of tend to maintain their value better, at least for collectors. So how many were built in 2006? I don't know, probably like 2,000. It's almost 20 years ago. There's not all of them still out there. People have crashed them. So let's take a look at this car. We're gonna talk all about it, and we're gonna have some fun. All my fucking self-control not to take out a loan right now. I'm not kidding. I want this car so bad. So BMW Z line, their sports car line. It started in 1989 with the Z1. Then in 1995, we got the Z3, which was actually a James Bond car. And that was, you guys, it was my first car. After the Z3, we got the Z8. It was a supercharged car. I think it had 400 something horsepower. They did not make very many. Just over 5,000 of them were built. They were 120K when they were new. There's examples now that are $250,000. They're really rare and expensive. But then we got the Z4. Now this is the first version. They still make the Z4 to this day, almost 20 years later. Actually, it's been 20 years since they first unveiled it. It's gone gone through several different generations of a body style, and honestly, this is the only one that I like. I hate the new ones. This is the turbocharged, or the supercharged, the M version. And if you guys ever see this M badge on an older BMW model, like I'd say post 2010, they started putting this thing on, like not entirely M cars per se. I'm not gonna get into it. But this badge means this is the creme de la creme, the top of the line example the BMW made of this car. I haven't even started driving the car yet. Good, you're busy. That means I can whip it. This one here is a manual, straight 6. It's got 330 brake horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds. It's a fast car. It weighs just under 3,000 pounds. It is a rear wheel drive car, so being here in Minnesota, you take it from me, you guys. I drove my Z3, my convertible Z3. It was a 2001 3.0 to 3.2. That one had 230 horsepower, so this is 30% faster than the car I had. But as far as why this car captures me, like I said, BMW has been making the Z4 for years, almost 20 years now. This is the only time they've done an M version like this where it was distinctly different, had way more horsepower than anything else in the line. They do have some supercharged ones, but they make more of them. There's something special about this one, and you just don't get it anymore with the cars. On top of that, they're not manuals anymore. This is a true driver's car, a real stick. They don't do sticks anymore. They built less Roadsters than they did of the coupes. I honestly think the coupe is a little bit weird looking. This one here is 34,777. It's only got 35,000 miles on it. Most examples I have found of this car, because yeah, I've been watching this car for years and years and years. I've wanted to buy one. I literally would buy one right now if I had the money. Like, fuck, it's like actually like very frustrating that I can't. Actually, it's probably for the best that I bought my car the other week, because I probably would have done something crazy and bought this car. So these cars were a little over 60K when they were new. During COVID, when the car market went so wacky, these cars were almost full sticker again. There were examples that were 50, 55K. They've dropped off since the car market corrected. I don't have a crystal ball, but I can see the car market recorrecting and taking off like it did before, like during COVID. And then something like this, you buy it for 34, it might be worth 40, who knows? I mean, inflation's a bitch, and a car like this is so rare. Every time, you guys, I follow car crash pages on Instagram, and every time you see one of these get smashed up by some dumb idiot driving, looking at their phone, that means your car went up in value. So you've got a supercharged convertible, very low production, a staple of BMW automotive engineering. I mean, if you are collecting BMW, like somebody who only collects BMWs, this is something you absolutely have to have in your collection. If you collect sports cars, this is the car for you. It is a no-brainer collector. I know I keep saying that, but I have been watching these cars with fascination. I just love the body. I love the style. I have driven one before. I drove one about 10 years ago, and it was excellent. And speaking of which, go ahead and have a seat. Convertibles, you guys, too. It's like, I call it like convertible therapy, or well, be a snob, I call it drop top therapy. Driving around in a convertible, at least for me, it puts me in a better mood. It makes me happy. Like mentally, it does something to your brain that is just magical. And I don't know what it is, at least for me, maybe some of you have it too. A couple more pointers about this car that you will not find on a 3.0 or any of the other Z4s. This has the M suspension, so it does not come with the same suspension pack that the other ones do. This has been upgraded, fine-tuned, stiffer suspension, stiffer springs, dampers, and of course we got these anti-roll bars. Now, most convertibles now have them, but like in 2006, not everyone did. Yeah, this would be a bad way to die. And take it from me, I've been in a car accident in a Z3. I smashed mine up pretty bad. I was fine. I hit, this old guy was on pills, and he took an illegal left turn. I plowed into him. Well, I mean, I got kind of hurt, but I was fine. That got better.
She turned me into a newt. A newt.
These have the larger M-Tune disc brakes. They've got better heat dissipation and stopping power. And then here in the interior, you get some special M package items that you don't get in any of the other models. I mean, most BMWs do have the M badge here, but not all of them have it on the shifter. And you see that, boy, you see that magic M right there? That means you have something special. On top of that, this car has a sport button, which stiffens the suspension. It makes it just a pinch more aggressive. I know I'm giving like an obnoxious sales pitch at this point. I'm repeating myself. Anyways, my passion, my enthusiasm is genuine. I just love cars. I love sports cars, and I really hope that we can build a relationship here and I can sell this car for them. So if I want to put the top down, top up, we simply foot on the brake, hold this button. It's fast, all automatic, just like that. Once again, you guys, I sincerely want to thank the episode sponsor, Local Coin Company. You guys check out Local Coin Company on social media. Follow their Whatnot auctions. Ian, one of the co-owners of Local Coin Company, is a great friend of mine and just a great asset to this community. He's a lot of fun. His products are excellent. His prices are, like, actually, sometimes he has deals that I can't compete with. He gave away $4,000 on Whatnot this week. So, guys, be sure you follow Local Coin Company. They are my episode sponsor for the whole month. There's a link in the video description. And with that, you guys, we are talking about something that I have wanted to talk about on here for a long time. And until UCAR Connect came into the picture, I have not had an outlet to do it. We are talking all about collector cars, the market, the value on them, and why I think if you're going to be investing in collectibles or putting your money into assets like collectibles, cars are kind of a no-brainer. I know I've said that word a lot, but I really truly at my core mean it and believe it, and there's evidence to back it up. So let's talk all about the world of cars. Collectibles that we talk about on here, like art, some of the oldest staples of human culture. Cars are a huge staple of our culture. They're an essential part of how we get around, how we live as humans, but the act of collecting these, kind of a newer facet in terms of the scheme of collectibles, the scope of people collecting stuff. Art's been collected for centuries. Cars, last 100 years. Now, part of what scares people about investing in a collectible like a car is the adage, well, you buy a new car, you drive it off the lot, you lose 30% of the money the second the tires touch the pavement of the street. Why would you want to invest in a collectible car? Or you think, well, cars are money pits. Performance cars, you gotta fix them. You know how expensive it is to fix a BMW? I had a lot of people on me on social media for talking about that Z4M, and you know, when I went and posted that, there's tons of asshats on Facebook like, well, if you buy a BMW, you're just lighting money on fire. It's a collectible that requires money too. You have to maintain it. It is a nice thing. If you don't have the money to buy something, don't buy it. If you're gonna buy a collectible car, you do have to maintain it. In my mind, there is nothing worse than somebody that buys some kind of a special Ferrari and they throw a cover over it and they stick it on the garage and that car never sees the light of day. You need to drive a collector car. If you buy it, you cannot do that. One of the biggest reasons being you're breaking the car by not driving it. These cars are meant to be driven. It's like if you buy a racehorse, you're not gonna keep it in the stable. You need to take it out on the track. Like if you see a Ferrari from the 1960s and it has 8 miles on it, do you have any idea how much maintenance that thing is gonna require just to get it roadworthy? It doesn't drive. The seals break down. All kinds of stuff will break down in the engine if it just sits. Don't be fooled by a car that is that old that has that few miles. That's not good. You wanna be driving these cars about low end, 500 miles a year. If you're not, if you can't afford that, then don't buy these, like don't get into cars. You can't afford it. Now, like I said, with this adage about, well, you just lose money on a car, that is not true, and COVID has made the car market totally wacky. Like I said, that Z4 was $60K when it was brand new. It was almost $60K during the car crunch of COVID. The car that I bought, the Audi S5, was $44,000 last year, and it significantly dropped because the market corrected. Another weird thing that happened in COVID, cars were going for double their retail price. There were certain cars, like example, the Dodge Hellcats were going for double sticker price, and you couldn't get them. There's a waiting list. People were buying them brand new if they could find them and flipping them and doubling their money. And this isn't just this one car. This happened with a lot of different cars over COVID. But the market could change again. Just because of what we're seeing right now with the market, with all the crazy stuff that's going on, cars are a really good place to put your money in terms of assets, in my opinion. Like I said, you gotta have the money to maintain it and take care of it. You gotta pay insurance. Let's say you're gonna buy a $50,000 collector car. Set aside $25,000 to maintain that car over a decade or two. And if you don't have $75K for that car on the spot, even though it costs $50, then you can't afford that car, don't buy it. And the joy of collector cars is if you pick the right stuff, you can make a ton of money. And I am very good at this, you guys. I am obsessed with cars. In the pandemic, we saw all assets massively rise, and we saw some car prices, some auction prices realize that were never even conceived before in the past. Another interesting facet with cars, sometimes wild cars can come into play and drive up the prices on cars totally unpredictably in ways that are both amusing and like, who saw that coming? Greatest example I can think of, the Pontiac Aztek. I hated that car. First time I saw that at the auto show, I thought, who would drive that? What an ugly thing. You gotta be Helen Keller to think a car like that is something you wanna be seen in. And then came Breaking Bad. Because of Breaking Bad, because of the cultural staple that show was. It's one of my favorite shows, one of the best written shows of all time. Because Heisenberg had a Pontiac Aztek, suddenly those became collector cars that people wanted. It was an automotive flop. Oftentimes if something is a flop, that's gonna be a car you wanna get because they're not gonna make it for very long. And the thing with cars, pretty much always, as long as it doesn't have enough miles on it, as long as it's well maintained, after 20 years, they start to go up. Some cars are better investments than others. The best example I can think of, if you want to buy a collector car that is for sure, I can't sell facts on here, but I can come right up into it with this one. A Porsche 911, any single one, any one, 20 years, it will go back up in value from what it was. Now, the rarer one you get, the less that are produced of a certain kind, the more it's going to go up, the more it's going to cost on the front end. But the more it is going to go up. Porsches always, 911s anyway, always go up. Other models, not so much, especially now that they've expanded into SUVs and sedans and all that stuff, no. But the 911 is probably the most classic, probably the greatest sports car ever made, or at least in terms of what it is and the staple of what it means for the culture of sports cars. So what exactly should you be looking for with collector cars? Well, rarity is a huge factor. How many were built? How popular was the car when it first came out? What was in the car that made it so special? At the end of this, I'm gonna give you 5 or 6 collector cars that I would personally buy if I was into cars or if I had the money to afford them. These are cars that I actually want to have in my future collection. And with that, we start with rarity. But we go from condition and certain other facets. What exactly made the car so rare? What's the story behind it? Personally, I think automotive flops. If a car was a huge flop, nobody wanted to buy it. They didn't make very many of them. That's one you want to get. When you think of collector cars, you probably think of the more premium high-end brands like Ferrari, Bugatti, Lamborghini, Aston Martin, but really collector cars can take any form. I mean, example, you could buy a 1980 Honda. Nothing special about it, but if it's got very few miles, those can be very expensive too. This is one of the collector markets, one of the only ones I can think of where the luxury brand name, the pedigree of what it is you're buying, it doesn't necessarily matter because you can buy something. Give you like an example of like what I'm talking about. Let's say Ferrari is like 22 karat gold and Volkswagen is like 10 karat gold. Well, sure, this is a higher premium, but you can do plenty well on the thing that's cheaper too, as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you have a plan for it. So some price tags just to give you ideas of just how expensive these can get, because these can get as expensive as art. Art can get a lot more expensive than this. More often we see art going for hundreds of millions. We're starting to see cars go, some models anyway, for over 100 million. And this is kind of a newer thing. The last 10 years, there were cars that were fetching this much money. As far as what I found, the most expensive car ever sold, it was a 1955 Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR Unlahaut Coupe, if I'm pronouncing that right. It was sold in 2022. Only 2 of them were built, and it went for $142 million. 4 years earlier, the second most expensive car was sold. It was a 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO, and although it went for a fraction of the price of the Mercedes, it went for $48 million. Now, as far as the golden age, the cars that are fetching the most money, traditionally, or at least historically recently, cars produced from 1930 to 1970. Now, we've seen muscle cars from the 70s massively take off in prices. Those personally are not my cup of tea. I'd like to own a Barracuda. I think those are really cool cars. Those are so expensive. Another interesting facet with these cars, not only sometimes are they ungodly rare, there's just a handful of examples, sometimes they find cars that are lost treasures of history. Truly, there's thought to be no examples anymore, and then they'll find in France in a barn somebody's got one and it's covered in hay and they'll restore it and then it'll go for, $100 million. The Nazis stole quite a lot of cars, put them away, tucked them away. I'm sure there's underground bunkers that have never been found full of loot. One car that is missing from history. We'll talk about this another time because I actually have a treatment for a screenplay and I have 20,000 words of a book written that I stopped writing like 4 years ago. James Dean's car, the little bastard, the car that he died in, that car is cursed. And I like to think that car literally has a body count. Not only did it kill James Dean, I'll make a long story short because we'll talk about this at length another time. Pieces of that car were taken out of the wreck and put in other cars and they all malfunctioned. The car was reassembled and put in a safety museum in California and it fell off the display and it crushed somebody. And then they moved it across the country to a different museum in Florida, and then it crushed somebody again. And then they went to move it again, and they opened up the semi-truck that it was in, and the car was gone. It's never been seen since. I like to think the devil took his car back. The curse of the little bastard, look it up. We will talk about that at length another time because it is a fascinating story. But if they found that car, 1, whoever buys it's a moron because that car is definitely cursed. But 2, that car would be probably, oh my God, I don't know. Another car lost from history. We recently talked about James Bond, and Bond cars are expensive. If it was used in the original film, very expensive. Other times they'll do special edition cars. Like I said, Daniel Craig designed an Aston Martin. Very expensive. But the Aston Martin DB5 used in Goldfinger, that was stolen in 1997 and they've never found it. A car that the Nazis stole, speaking of which, 1937 Bugatti Aerolith. It was a very advanced car for the time. It was made from aluminum magnesium and it's been missing since World War II. Some Nazi plundered it, stuck it away, and some descendant of the terrible family probably knows where it is. As far as the premium brands go, Ferrari, I would say, is a brand that consistently, the old examples always fetch millions. Ferrari is kind of a guarantee your money back as long as you maintain it, you can afford to maintain it, and you don't put too many miles on it. They all go back up. There's some Ferraris that are flops, and those ones are ones to grab because they were... In the early 2000s, you could get some of them for under $30,000 from the 70s. They're not exactly attractive, but they're rare. And now they're six-figure cars. There are some collections out there, too, that are so impressive. Jay Leno's garage. Jay Leno has one of the most impressive car collections on Earth. Also, he seems like a cool guy. I'd love to take a ride with him. But that pales in comparison to a man known as the Sultan in his car collection. Hassan al-Bolkiah, if I'm saying his name right, the Sultan of Brunei. He has more than 7,000 vehicles in his collection. It's worth billions of dollars. It's so expensive. And that, it's going up every day. This guy is making money on this stuff. So with cars constantly fetching higher price tags, with our culture obsessing over cars more and more, like look at the Fast and the Furious franchise. It's a car franchise. I love those movies, except the most recent one was awful. It, to me, does not seem like collecting cars, the staple of our culture. I don't think this is going anywhere anytime soon. There's only two things I can think of that'll screw up the car market. Number one, what happens if it becomes illegal to drive a non-autonomous car? What happens if in the next 20 years, autonomous cars roll out, like in the movie I, Robot, you can drive a car non-autonomously. Because the autonomous cars can drive so fast, what happens if we can't drive? If cars have to drive because we change all of our highways and cars go like 200 miles an hour? You guys, when I was running for Congress, and if you don't know about that, don't ask. It's a long story I don't want to get into. One of the things that I wanted to run on was getting rid of speed limits and instigating an American Autobahn. But cars, you guys, are so fast now, and they can do things that they couldn't do 70 years ago, and most of our speed limits come from the 1950s. The other thing that I can think of that'll screw up cars, what happens if it becomes illegal to drive gas cars? Now, again, that's way, way far out, like 50 years, and you know, who knows if that'll even happen. But what happens if that does happen? What happens to these cars? What do? You change out the engine, you put in an electric engine, well then you've destroyed the car, because part of what makes cars go up, like art, is it original? You want to have all the original parts, and if you don't, then you can screw up the value. There's nothing I hate more than seeing a classic 1970s car and it's got a brand new aftermarket stereo system in it. You have taken a big steaming dump right on the price of that car. Don't upgrade your car, don't trick it out, don't put a wrap on it. Buy it as is, make sure it has good service records, make sure you have all those, how many owners has it had, keep all the parts original, maintain it, drive it, don't put it in a garage. You deserve to lose your head if you're one of those people that buys a $3 million car and never lets it see the light of day. You shouldn't have that. Shame on you. Says I. So with that, you guys, I want to tell you about some cars that if I had the money, would buy them as collectors, because they are going up in value, and I have been following all these cars that I'm going to mention. I have been following them for years, and they are going up. Number one, like I said, you want to have cars that are automotive flops. That's what a lot of these are. The first one is the Volkswagen Phaeton W12. It is a full-size luxury sedan. They only had it in North America from 2004 to 2006. It basically has a Bentley GT engine. I've driven in one. I've never driven one. My dad and I took one out. I didn't get to drive it because the sticker on it in 2005 was 120-something thousand. Back then. Oh my God, was that car fast. Holy hell. And it's just so comfortable, you don't feel it too. And it got like 6 miles to the gallon. So a 2004, 5, or 6 Volkswagen W12 Phaeton, those are getting expensive. The problem with those, they basically have Bentley parts. You at one point could buy them for like $15K. They're way up now. They've gone up with the collector market, but the air suspension goes out on those cars notoriously, and that's 10 grand. They're so expensive, but it's such a rare car. Now they didn't sell well because who wants to pay $120,000 for a Volkswagen? You may as well buy the Audi. So they pulled the plug. They lasted in Europe a lot longer. They lasted, I think, all the way until 2016. Here in the US, they were a flop, and that's a great example. Number two, the BMW Z4M Roadster, produced from 06 to 08. They made less Roadsters than coupes. The coupes actually are a little bit more expensive and collectible. I just think the Roadster is a better looking car. Number three, a Cadillac XLR V. They made the V from 2006 to 2009. I have driven the V. Actually, I drove a 2009 V. The car stinks of burning rubber when I bring it back, and I tossed the salesman the keys and go, I don't like it. I did like it. I just thought that was funny. They made, I think the 09, the last year, they made the fewest of them. So that's the year you want to get. If you find one with low miles, an XLR V, you might be spending upwards of $100,000 on it. And they weren't that much more brand new. They are going up. They made so few of the Vs, and the fact is nobody wanted to buy them because who wants a Cadillac V when you can buy a Corvette V? They cost the same. GM pulled the plug. The recession had just kicked off. Nobody had the money to really be buying these cars. They weren't selling. And as a result, they're very rare. Next up, may not be for everyone, but this car is so rare, I would strongly recommend it if this is your cup of tea. This is the Lincoln Blackwood, made from August of 2001 to December of 2002. It was a luxury pickup truck that massively flopped. Nobody wanted to buy them. I found they made 3,356 of them. That's it. So that is a car definitely recommend. Two more. A Lotus Elise. They made a lot of them, tens of thousands. They were made from 1996 until actually pretty recently, but they made some variants of it that were supercharged, and that would be a car to get. Again, I have not driven one. I have ridden in one. It's not a comfortable car. You're literally sitting at a 90-degree angle because it is so low to the pavement. Your legs are just like straight out like that, but it's a really fun car. Just that is a car you do not want to get in an accident in that car. You will not walk away. It is very lightweight, but they're very fun. They're very sporty. I think the look of them is really cool. I wouldn't recommend getting a base one unless you got like a first year. First year and last year of anything is always a good idea. And like I said, when I was out at the dealership looking at that Z4, my dad's right. Top goes down, price goes up. Convertibles tend to be better investments than hard tops for collectors. And then finally, a Dodge Viper. First year Dodge Vipers, and they are starting to finally get expensive. I've never driven one. I've never ridden in one. I've sat in one. I thought it was a cool, I think I sat in like a 2005. Very cool car, very underrated sports car. They don't make them anymore. They stopped making them because people just weren't really buying them, and people were buying other Dodges. So any of those cars, you guys, you got the money, I'd recommend buying one of these cars. And I'm really happy to have been talking about them. If you guys are interested in that BMW Z4M, depending on when this has come out, it is probably still available. You know, it's been like a month since the video came out, 2 months, probably not. But let me know, because I would love, we're gonna be featuring more cars on here. I'm gonna be working with UCAR Connect, doing more vehicles, and I am getting a small commission. It's like not very much. It's more for me to feature cars. I just love doing this, and I'd love to be doing a lot more with cars on here.
And that's the magic of collectible cars and the car market. When buying a collector car, I always consider the truck. Because just like that, you never know when you're gonna have a bump in the road and have to stuff a body in and drive away real quiet. Although I suppose if you buy most of these cars, they are anything but quiet. Oh. All right, guys, well, just like that, it is the end of the day and the end of the episode. Once again, I sincerely want to thank the episode sponsor of the month, the local coin company. You guys be sure to follow them on social media. Check out their Whatnot auctions. Like I said, they give away $4,000 in an auction. They have excellent giveaways. They're a lot of fun. Download Whatnot using local coin company's code or mine. It's in the video description below. If you do, you don't have Whatnot, you get $15 just for downloading it using their code or mine. And we get $25 for referring you, so do that. And if you guys like this video, be sure you give it a thumbs up. If you like what I do here, please consider becoming a Pawn Man Patreon or sponsor. I do need all the help I can get. It is not easy to do this show, and it requires quite a lot of money, and I'm not making very much money. Get my books on Amazon. I did lower the price of my books to just $8 each on my website. Check out my website if you guys want to buy stuff as well. I'm also on eBay and my Whatnot auctions. PawnManStore.com is the name of my website. Check that out. You get 5% off if you haven't shopped using promo code PawnMan5. Share my videos on social media if you want to spread the word of Pawn Man. And with that, I will see you guys back here for another great episode of Pawn Man. Later, guys.